Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we are going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the sleeper story. That's kind of one that's maybe flying under the radar a little bit, the most remarkable story, and our favourite story of the week. So let's jump into it. What was the biggest story for you this week?
Oh, look, it was earnings season, but I'm going to be specific on Coles and Woolworths. They both came out and said food inflation's about 4 to 4.5%. What we really saw in these earnings was that the cost of living pressures are now biting consumers. So people aren't buying as much beef mince. They're buying more pork mince, for example. Bakery products are going up in price. Some tinned goods are selling more because people are swapping that instead of fresh fruit and veggies. What it does is show how the economy is hitting the real world. So for me, I thought they were really fascinating, those earnings seasons. The good news out of it, the iceberg lettuce, Michael, it's back down to $4, heading towards $3. What was your biggest story?
That is something we can all rejoice. Sean, my biggest story is about what's happening in federal politics at the moment. A couple of big inquiry developments this week. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese launched a royal commission into the Morrison government's robo-debt scheme. So this is that scheme that was ruled unlawful by the federal court in 2019. It was using automated systems to collect overpayments from Centrelink recipients, recovered $750 million or thereabouts from almost 400,000 people. Labor committed to a royal commission at the election. And so this is essentially confirmation and details now on that Royal Commission and when it's going to be held. There are also, Sean, some big developments in the saga, the ongoing saga of the former Prime Minister Scott Morrison and the fact that he had himself sworn in as the co-minister for 5 different portfolios very quickly: Treasury, Health, Home Affairs, Finance and Resources. Earlier in the week, there was the advice from the Solicitor General that it was all done legally. A lack of transparency, though, undermined the principles of responsible government. Late in the week, the current Prime Minister announced the details of an inquiry that he said is going to determine the how, the why, and the who knew what of the whole situation. It's going to be headed up by former High Court Justice Virginia Bell. It's all going to happen very quickly. The findings are due to be reported by November 25, so we will be hearing about this one for some time to come.
Sure will.
All right, most remarkable story. I reckon we might be aligned on this one.
The coal companies, and specifically Whitehaven Coal. It reported a $2 billion profit this week. That's 5 times more than a year earlier. Now, Whitehaven mines coal for electricity production, the thermal coal, and for making steel metallurgical coal. What's incredible about this company is that a year ago, it owed $800 million. Now it's got $1 billion cash in hand. It is the ultimate turnaround story on the ASX, not just this year, but for many, many years. Why? Because coal prices are so high. So rather than going out the door backwards, Whitehaven has been among the top 3 or 4 most successful ASX stocks on the last 12 months.
That is a remarkable story. That is the best turnaround story I reckon I have ever heard. That is incredible.
That's all due to high prices too.
Indeed. All right, let's move on to the sleeper story. So one that's maybe not getting the attention that it deserves or is going to be a bigger story further down the track. I've got a nomination for this one, Sean, and it's all about nuclear power, because in Japan, they've been turning off nuclear reactors ever since the Fukushima disaster back in 2011. But we've got rising energy prices for coal and for gas, and then the need to cut carbon emissions as well. And so suddenly, nuclear power is back in the news in Japan with plans to develop a new series of kind of smaller reactors and restart some of the mothballed ones. Germany is looking at doing the same kind of thing as well, really as part of this push to try and get to net zero carbon emissions. Obvious benefits for Australia's uranium producers, but the reason it's a sleeper story for me is kind of how long before the nuclear power debate becomes a big issue again in Australia as well. Don't really know when that's going to happen or if it's going to happen, but I'm going to nominate it as a sleeper story anyway.
Fair enough. Look, my sleeper story is all about migration into Australia, and particularly skilled migration. And we have the Job Summit on Thursday, Friday this coming week. That'll be all about wages, be all about unions and businesses working together. We need skilled people coming into the country. Now, a Deloitte Access report during the week basically said the private sector needs to pick up that mantle and the public sector, the government, needs to cut red tape. The other thing the government was talking about late this week just past is having a minimum wage for migrants coming into the country. That minimum wage of about $65,000 means skilled migrants are more likely to come into the country rather than unskilled migrants. Skilled migration is a big issue that we're going to hear lots about over the next 12 months or so.
Yeah, good sleeper story, that one. Sean, the favourite story of the week. Can I suggest one? I reckon this is a hands down winner.
Sure.
Star Entertainment. We've heard so much about the Star over the last 18 months. There's been all kinds of inquiries and things. We've now got one in Queensland into the operations of the casino group there. This week, it emerged that Star Entertainment allegedly gave a gold Rolex watch worth a casual $53,000 and a birthday cake to a high roller who had been banned by the New South Wales Police Commissioner from gambling at its flagship casino in Sydney.
Yeah, amazing. And the allegation, of course, is that the Star did that to lure the gambler over the border. He wasn't allowed to gamble in the City Casino, gamble in Brisbane and Gold Coast. What I love is the Star's response. It actually said that the intent was to reward him for his loyalty and recognise his milestone birthday. Not sure about that one, Michael. It is hard for that not to be the favourite story of the week.
I think we finished this episode united on that one, Sean. It is a cracker of a story. There we go, 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.